Hi, and welcome to another McWanago Library STEAM-Tastic activity. And today we're going to be building a solar updraft tower. So you're going to need a lot of supplies, as you can see, we have a lot here. So you should get the big black piece of construction paper from the library, as well as a piece of construction paper, regular sheet of paper, and the white paper with the outline on it, as well as some scissors, tape, and a pencil. And then you're also going to want or you get this in your bag, some molding clay, as well as some paper clips is what we have here. They're just going to substitute as the needle. You just need something that can poke through. You don't need a needle. And some wooden skewers and some incandescent light bulbs or heat lamps, something that can be pretty bright as well. And you can see on your sheet some optional things are sunshine in a wind protected area, so like in a patio with windows, or a timer, or a white piece of construction paper for some other decorations and things. So let's get into it. So first what we're going to do is take our big piece of paper, our black paper, and we're going to roll it into a cone with about a 2-inch opening at the top and about a 4-inch opening at the bottom. So it's going to be skinnier at the top and wider at the bottom. So we're just going to take it and roll it out. Like that. Now this is pretty huge, so I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. Like I said, about 4 inches at the bottom, about, I'd say about as big as your palm. That sounds about right. And then I'm going to take this top part and make it skinnier. It's a little bit difficult, but you want it to be skinnier at the top and wider at the bottom. So once I get it about 2 inches at the top, that's about right. I'm going to put a little piece of tape up here to hold that. Just hold that in place. There we go. There. And then what I'm going to do is adjust it just a little bit to get that 4-inch sized hole at the bottom. I want to make sure it stays about the same size at the top that I made it. Doesn't have to be exact, but just want it to be larger at the top, or larger at the bottom than it is at the top. Looks about good to me. Now time to stick some tape on there. Might be good to peel your tape before you start rolling to make it a bit easier to roll it up. Alright, there we go. Some tape there. Alright, there we go. So now you're going to want to, you see how we have some edges and things? You're going to want to cut the top to make it a flat edge. So we're just going to, you can kind of fold it down a little bit and just cut it down flat at the top. Alright, so once you cut off the top and make it flat, you're going to do the same thing with the bottom. So you're just going to try and make it as even as possible, just along that bottom edge, and get it so it's a flat cone and can stand up on its own. This edge. Nope. Cut the opposite direction. Try and get it even. So now it should stand up just like that. There we go. If it tilts any direction, maybe cut a little bit off that edge, just so it can stand normally. There we go. Cool. So now we have our cone. It should be pretty tall, about 10 to 15 inches tall, depending on how wide you made it, but fairly tall, about as long as your arm. Get rid of those scraps, and then what we're going to do is cut 3 equally distanced 2-inch little notches out of the bottom of this. So we're going to, so what you're going to do is you can take your pencil and kind of mark out 3 equally distanced points, kind of like a triangle. So I'm going to go like right there, about, make my triangle about, doesn't have to be exact, but about right there, and about right there. So these points, I'm going to make about a 2-inch by 1/2 inch little cutout notch that's going to just give a little bit of space in the bottom so air can get in. So we're going to just cut about 1/2 inch up, and then about 2 inches over, 1/2 inch up, just like that, and then we're going to cut on through, make that notch. Fold it up, there we go. Cut that out. Alright, and then you're going to do that 2 more times. So, cut up, fold it, cut it out. You can kind of see what I'm doing here by cutting out these notches about 1/3 apart from each other in the cone. Alright, go, one more. Doesn't have to be exact, but again, we want it to be pretty good. And we want to make sure that our cone can still stand up on its own with those notches down at the bottom. Alright, so we can set that to the side now. And in your bag, you should have gotten a little sheet with a template on it. And so what we're going to do is cut out this circle out of the white page, and it even tells you on the instructions, cut along the red lines. And so these kind of filled in sections are going to be cut out and removed, and we're going to fold along these dotted lines. But we're also going to just use this as a template to put onto our construction paper. So we don't really have to be we don't have to fold this white paper, but we're just going to cut along these lines. So with this filled in section, you can kind of see what I did here. You see there's a little bit of extra red line that comes out onto the white connecting to the dotted line. And so that lets you cut out the little red section and then fold this down about 45 degrees. And so we don't have to do it all on the white paper because we're just going to be using this as a template for that, like I said. But that's just kind of what you got to keep in mind when you're going to be cutting. Leaving that little bit of extra space, cutting that, so then you can fold down this section. And we're going to do that 4 times. Alright, so once we've cut out our template, we're going to take our piece of construction paper, and right in the corner, we're just going to take our pencil and make an outline of that, just like that. And so we're going to make an outline using this as a template and make our cutting lines. And don't worry too much about the dotted lines right now. We're going to figure those out later. So try and keep it as close to the white template as possible, just so everything's even. All right. Take your time. Cool. So now what we're going to do is just cut out this, just like we did before. And then cut out the notches, just like we did. Right? And then remember, we're going to, if you want to put the dotted lines in and just kind of mark them with your pencil, You can do that by just seeing here. You can pull it down a little bit, put a little notch where the dotted line ends, and a little notch age point, just to remind yourself where that dotted line ends, and then you can connect it down to the center of the circle with a straight edge. And I'm just gonna kind of sketch in my circle here. There we go. One more. So now, just with this paper as my straight edge, I can just make a little bit of marking to show me where I'm going to be folding. And so we're just recreating this white piece of paper on our red sheet paper, just because the construction paper is a lot stronger and we can, it'll serve our purposes better. All right, there we go. And then don't forget to make that little notch on the inside so we can fold down our paper along the dotted line. That's the most important part. Almost done. All right, so once I finish this up, we are going to fold down along our dotted lines, and we're going to fold it down about 45 degrees, so not all the way down, and you can fold it back pretty far just to get the angle, and then you're just going to let it angle down, not super far, but just about 45 degrees downwards, and you can do that with all 4 of them to kind of make a propeller. So do that, and then that. So I fold it down, make a crease, and then kind of just bring it back a little bit, just so it can stay down there. There we go. All right. Now I've got a propeller. All right, so now that we have our cone, our propeller, and some scraps, you guys can get rid of that stuff, don't need it. We are going to make a ball out of our clay. So we're going to take our clay here and just make a ball out of it. So you can, just like Play-Doh, just kind of mold it, make it into a ball, just like that. All right. Cool. We got our ball right there. And then what we're going to do is take our skewer and one of our paper clips, and we're going to stretch out our paper clip so it's one long line. Try not to break it. You don't want to bend it back and forth too much because then it'll snap. So we're going to do that, one long line. And we're going to tape it to the edge of our skewer. So try and make it as flat as you can. Press it against the table to get out any kinks. Go. Alright. And just a little bit more. Try and make it as straight as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you can get close. Alright. So now what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to just take some tape and wrap it around our skewer. And so we hold our needle, in this case our paper clip, right at the top there and make it just stick out the top, straight up. Alright, now we're done with our prep work. Alright, so we have our ball of clay, our propeller, our skewer with our needle or paper clip on top, and our tower. And so what you need to do is have your tower be at the height of your skewer or needle. So ours is pretty tall, so we're going to want it to be a bit shorter, just so the needle can stick out a bit above the tower, just to make sure that our propeller can sit nicely above like that. So what we're going to have to do is just find a good place to cut our tower out. It's not a huge deal. Just going to down like that. Again, you want to keep it even like you did before. So there's no weird curves or anything on top. Right. There we go. I'm going to just add a little piece of tape in there so that'll stay still. This side. Alright. There we go. Just to keep the paper still. And even out the cut a little bit. Can be a little bit awkward having to trim it, but it's all for the name of science. Alright, straps can go away. Now we can take our clay ball, kind of squish it down a little bit so it's pretty sturdy, just so it can stay there, and then we're going to put our cone on top of it. What we're going to do is take our skewer and stick our skewer right into that clay ball down there so the skewer stands tall like that. Then we're going to take our propeller, make sure your fins are pressed down a little bit, and then we're going to just take it and poke it a little bit on, not all the way through, well, as much as you can get it. Alright, try to make sure it's balanced. Nope, mine's falling down. I want it to just balance on top. There we go. So if you look at it, you can see it's kind of spinning a little bit just from me talking. But what we're going to do next is take our lights that we have and we're going to shine it on our lamp. Alright, so what we're going to do is take our lights here and we're going to turn them on and point them about towards the base, more towards the bottom of the tower. And what we're going to do is let that sit for about 2 to 5 minutes, and we're going to see what happens. If you have a thermometer, like an area thermometer, what you can do is take it and measure the outside of the tower and also the inside of the tower before and after to see the differences of what's going on with these lamps and how it's heating the inside of the tower. And then also make sure that you're watching your propeller to see anything that might happen with it without you even talking or blowing any wind. Make sure there's no draft or anything around you so you can see exactly what's going on with the tower. Alright, after you've been watching your cone for a while, you see your propeller start to move a little bit. Oh, I think my breath kind of stopped it. But what's happening is these are kind of like little suns. And so if you put your hand in front of your lights, you're going to feel the heat coming off of them. And what this is doing is heating up this cone. And the cone has air inside of it and air on the outside of it. And like I said, with your thermometer, if you have one, you can see that it's a lot hotter on the inside than it is on the outside, because there's all this heat being centralized in here, and it's black, which absorbs even more heat than anything else. So it's absorbing a lot of heat, which is then transferring into the air that's inside of the cone. And so when air gets hotter, it becomes less dense. And so that means it's going to rise up away from the cold air, because cold air is kind of, you can think of it as being heavier. It's denser, and so it's heavier. It's like if you have a piece of paper and it's all spread out, that's light, and when you drop it, it's gonna kind of slowly fall down. But when it's crunched up and tight and dense, it's gonna fall down quick like a rock. So that's kind of what's happening with our air. We're spreading it out more when we add heat to it. We're kind of stretching it and making it like that paper, like it's folding out. So it's less dense, and it's going to actually rise up because all the heavy air around it is kind of pushing it upwards. And you can also think of it like being in a pool. So when you're in a pool, you put something like a floaty or something at the bottom of the pool, it's gonna shoot up to the top because it's less dense than all the water that's around it. And that is something called buoyancy, which is going to lift up something that's less dense than everything around it. And so whether it's in a pool or in air or in any sort of fluid, we're going to have buoyancy, and so hot air is very buoyant compared to the cold air, and that's what's lifting it up. And then when that air leaves, we have these holes in the bottom to get more air to come in, cold air, and that's just going to get heated up like the previous air, so it's just going to continually have an updraft as more air gets sucked in when hot air leaves. And so that's what gets us this spinning of our propeller, because we are having that updraft, and that's what's spinning this. So to dig deeper and for some more exploration of this experiment, you can try some other things to see how fast you can get your propeller to spin, maybe adding more lights to get more heat, or try maybe making a bigger propeller, smaller propeller, a propeller with more fins, or with different types of paper. You can also use different paper for your cone to see what kind of things change. Maybe try white paper and see if you can get the same effect as you do with the black paper. You can also bring it outside and let it sit in the sun and see how well the sun can actually have the same effect as it does just with these lights. So try those different exploration things to see what you can do with this experiment and get that air differential of the hot air and the cold air, and making the hot air float up. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have fun with your solar powered updraft cone, and we'll see you next week.